Boom.
Okay, we're back in the building. It's G, keeping it G, and me, Ash. How you all doing today? G, hope you're well today. First of all, I want to start the show off by paying respects to the royal family, to the Queen. God save our gracious Queen, passed away yesterday. So many years of service. So again, we want to pay tribute, don't we, G, to our Queen of, I was going to say just Great Britain, but Queen of the Commonwealth.
Yeah, it's like it's as they say, it's a mourning period at this current moment in time. So I think everybody, and I do mean everybody, just just we pay our respects. Someone's just passed away, and then we can go on and continue, and just continue our lives and things like that. But this is a period of mourning, especially for the royal family. So
100%. Period of mourning for them, period of mourning for everybody in the country, everyone in the Commonwealth. But like we said, we do still want to keep everything rolling here for you because we want to keep you updated on anything that's happening, news within the club, news coming out of the club. And we want to start things off, as we always do, on a Friday with Academy Radar. Let's go. Hello, says Latif Aziz in the comments. Latif, how are you doing this morning? Hope you are good. Big up to everybody that jumps the show. Anyone watching this show back, please hit that like button. Beep, 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 beep. Hit that like. We can bring you plenty of shows just like this throughout the week. But G, under 18s, under 21s, even a bit of under 19s we're going to talk about this week. We want to give everybody the roundup, but we're kind of hoping for some success because the senior team aren't doing it for us, are they, this year, G?
Nah. So let's hope that the especially in the Champions League or the UEFA Youth League, hopefully that the under 19s can do a good job. And as we'll get into, they started off very well, very well.
They did start off well, and that leads me nicely into the UEFA Youth League. Liverpool's under 19s going into the Youth League this week, playing against Napoli, just like the senior squad did. But guess what? The under 19s did that we couldn't. They took the W's. Let's put this up here. This was the squad for the game. Goals from Oakley Cannoneer, Ben Doak. I like this under 19s Youth League, and I'm going to put my neck out there. I'm going to say we're going to get far in this competition. We're going to get to the latter stages, and I'm saying that because it's a nice mix of the under 23 squad and under 18 squad, because some of them have had to move up like Cannoneer. Some of them have had to move up like Frauendorf, like Kwanzaa, and play in the under 23s, under 21s it is this season, under 21 squad, but they can play together now with the under 18s in this under 19 squad if they're eligible. Damn, G! The academy team doing what the men's team should be doing. 3-5-2. It's nice to see for once at Liverpool Football Club.
Well, it's funny that you even throw that formation up because you, myself, Jerry, Roms, we were speaking literally about this formation, for the men's team, to be honest with you, because we feel that it could potentially be a formation that we should look at. And the fact that we're seeing it in the under 19s level, obviously 2 different levels, totally understand it. But if the youth team can do it and can show that it's a system that could potentially work, I can't see why the first team haven't at least tried at the bare minimum.
If they don't try next time, G, I think I'm going to switch the television off. I'm not going to lie. I think I'm just going to put my eggs in the academy and the women's baskets this season because the men are making me vex. But let's take a look at the squad. Mabea, Chambers, Kwanzaa as a back three. Interesting to see Mabea coming inside as a centre-back. But then you've got these wingers, Cone Doherty. I don't know if it's Doherty or just Kane Doherty. Ben Doak playing as probably wingers more than wing-backs. But still having that defensive responsibility. You've got Jonas in midfield, who's known for being a centre-back. So interesting, but Doak for you, and we're going to talk a little bit more about him later, he looks like an absolute star for the future.
Yeah, man. And even you're saying about like they were playing more as wingers, 100%. Even when I'm watching the game back and I watched it again this morning, it's like the positions he was taking up, it was more of a, how can I put it? The way that they played this 3-5-2 formation, I really did like, because as you said, look, it's interesting to see Mabea playing right centre back. The right centre back position, even though he's more notoriously known as a right back.
When you look at that, G, Mabea and Chambers normally play left back and right back. So I'm wondering, in attack, were we playing a one at the back with the wing backs Mabea and Chambers?
It was kind of, so what you kind of had was you would have in attack, if, for example, Ben Doak had the ball on the right-hand side, he was always going to be either overlapped or Mabea would always be there on just behind him, just to be able to offer a service just in case he needed it. But he would always be there on the overlap. That was obviously on the attack. But then what you had in the middle was Cornice would maybe then drop in just in case, obviously, we get broken on the counter attack. So then it would leave two centre backs, Kwanzaa, and sometimes Cornice would be back there. But with Mabea's pace, which was key in this game, with his pace, he was able to still get back and help out the defense, but he wasn't bombing forwards all the time. And I think that was more key for me, was that he picked his moments. Now, Chambers on the other side, again, picked their moments. It wasn't just, let's always bomb forward, bomb forward, bomb forward. It was, always done with a bit more selective thinking. So I feel that this kind of formation, yes, it looks a bit weird because you're thinking, Mabea is a right back or a right wing back, but he was able to still get himself forward and still able to come back. A bit like a bit like Kyle Walker at Manchester City. He kind of took up those same positions where you don't see Kyle Walker bombing forward, all the time, and things like that. Very selective when we have the ball. So he was able to pick his moments and things like that. And Luke Chambers, again, these guys are naturally fullbacks. So the fact that they were able to play in this position, for me, it kind of told a lot. And obviously for the versatility of these players as well, shows that they're able to still play in this position and relatively compact. Napoli weren't having too many chances, if I'm being honest. They had a few, but we weren't getting carved open, if I'm being 100% honest with you.
Gee, let me ask you the damn question. Bidders says it as well. Big up Bidders in the comment. If academy coaches can see this formation might work, if they can make a system work where you've got two wing backs playing as centre back, why the hell can't the so-called best manager in the world see that this would be perfect for the senior team? Again,
the worst thing about it, he's got the players to do it, which is even funnier, to be honest. If anything, he's got, obviously, of course, he's got better players, but
perfect players to play in that system.
Actually got the perfect players, to play in this system, because what you'd have in the middle is, obviously, when he's back fit, you'd have Fabinho and Thiago as the two central midfielders. What that then allows is for players like either Trent and Robbo on either side to then be able to play the positions that they probably want to play, which is going forward, helping out the attack, but we don't lose any defensive stability. We still have that in either Fabinho or Thiago. So I just feel that it's something that we should be doing. In my personal opinion, that I'm not a coach. I don't know more than Jurgen Klopp. So again, I can't, be out here telling people what they should and shouldn't do. So, but I just feel that we have got the players to actually play this kind of formation. And I'm just confused as to why he hasn't even tried it, to be honest with you.
I'm confused as well. We're going to round up the weekend's fixtures as well and tell you what's coming up if the games stay on There is a press conference going on at 11 o'clock, so we'll find out. Tune into Kloppzone HQ news show after lunch, and we'll round up whatever's happening with the fixtures this weekend and any other news that you need to get hold of. But stay tuned for this show because we have got Klopp that's coming, one player from the academy that we think could potentially move up into Klopp's senior squad very soon, hopefully this weekend, because we need something. We need something. But let's round up this weekend's fixtures. Not the greatest weekend. Not bad, though. 2-2, the under-21s against Manchester United. We saw 16 shots, 11 shots on target, 53% possession. And then we seen Jake Kane, Bobby Clark on the score sheet, and Bobby Clark also picking up an assist. Bobby Clark, for you, G, obviously trains with the first team, but still playing in the under-21s, unlike Bajcetic. Bajcetic seems to be nailed on with the first team squad now. Do you think there's a route in there for Bobby Clark? Because every game now he's getting assists, he's getting goals, he's doing a bit too good for the under-21s. But is he good enough to cut it at that level and get a chance in the first team?
Is he good enough for the first team? I'd probably say maybe not good enough. Obviously, the high level of the first team, when everyone is actually fit, maybe not good enough for the first team. But what he is showing at the bare minimum is that he's able to play these various positions. He's showing that even at this level of under-21 football, he's still able to manipulate games. And that, for me, is kind of key when I'm looking at a young player in the academy and things like that. How are you able to manipulate games? Obviously, for someone in his position, of course, if he's a defender, it'll be a bit different. But if you're able to manipulate games in the manner that he's able to, the skills are still transferable to first team football. Of course, the only difference now is literally just the level that you're doing it at. But that's something that you can obviously still reach through coaching and, things like that. So could he do it? Maybe, potentially. And especially with all the injuries and things that we have, that we just need to start trying different things. And someone like a Bobby Clark, we've seen him in the first team squads and things like that. So Klopp clearly has an eye on him at the bare minimum. He's got an eye on him. So you know what? Why not? Why not? At this stage, why not? Why not?
Why not play the under-21s instead of the senior squad? I agree. But let's take a look at the lineup again. We'll pull that lineup again. So the lineup, we had Stewart up front, Frauendorf right wing, Norris left wing, Clark, Kane, Cornes, Chambers, Jonas, Kwanzaa, Mabea, and Mrozek. Out of that list, when I look at that squad, G, I see, if I'm being completely honest, two players with a future in the senior squad. If I'm being completely honest, how many do you see from that starting 11? Bearing in mind, this is the step just before you play senior football. How many of those do you realistically think can get into Liverpool's senior squad?
Remember, we did a show last season in regards to players, and it's not always the best players that get in. It's sometimes about the opportunity that presents itself. With that being said, I will say 1, 2. 2.
I said 2. I think our 2 are different as well, though. I think our 2 are different. So my 2 are Chambers. I think you'd go Chambers as well, maybe. I don't know. G's face, he's been saying otherwise. I'd go Chambers and Frauendorf. They're my 2. Who are your 2?
Mine was Mabea and Frauendorf. And the only reason why I didn't go Chambers is purely just out of the fact that the position that he plays, barring an injury crisis, he won't get in there. He'd have to try and you're not getting past Robbo and you're not getting past Tsimikas. So left back is completely out of the question, give or take, to be honest with you. Yes, he can play multiple positions. I just think the left-hand side is his best bet, whether it be at the back or in attack. It's his best bet. that side is, in my opinion, kind of nailed down now. We've got more than enough people who can play on that side. Mabea, though, I feel, like I said, it's all about the opportunity. And I feel that down that right side, the right side of Liverpool's play, and I'm talking from right back all the way to right where Salah plays, I feel he could maybe get in there purely because of his attributes that he brings. The guy is flipping lightning quick.
He's
If
a
he can just,
physical specimen, isn't it?
he's a specimen, bro. He actually reminds me, just not as big. He reminds me of Micah Richards a little bit, but again, just not as big.
Yeah, that's a show, actually. That's a good show, good comparison. The way he plays, hungry, physical, a bit rash at times.
Yes,
But
yes.
again, that's playing with passion, playing with your heart on your sleeve. Cammy's saying that he can see three: Chambers, Kwanzaa, and Frauendorf. Kwanzaa's an interesting one, but I think he fits in that mold again. And I think we had this conversation the other day of Joe Gomez. Is he really good enough to be a mainstay at centre-back for Liverpool? If I had to tip my hat at someone, before his injury, I would have said Jonas has the perfect playing style, likes to venture forward, great on the ball, quick. I think he would have fit in there nicely. But again, size-wise, he's not the tallest. And as a centre-back in the Premier League, you've got to have a bit of height. But talk to Lautaro Martinez.
I was just about to say, listen, don't tell that to Man United fans because they'll show you Martinez. But it is, look, Cammy, like, I agree with you. Those three probably would be, if you just had to pick based on talent and, you know, if there was nothing really else to think about, then yeah, I probably would actually go with those three. But with Kwanzaa, I just think it will never happen. We've got Konate. How old is Konate? He's never going to usurp Konate unless Konate gets a crazy injury. You know, it's just not going to happen. So I just feel centre-back position, as crap as the first team has been this season, it's still one of our strongest areas of the pitch. So we've got more than enough players who can play there. He'd probably end up taking a Nat Phillips position, for example, which is brilliant for maybe Kwanzaa, but he's someone who he just won the Euros. I think, was it Euros with the England
the under-19 Euros,
under-19 Euros with England. So he's on that kind of, you know, he's on that trajectory where, again, we're falling almost into that Nico Williams situation where if you're not going to get the game time here, unfortunately, for Liverpool anyway, he's going to probably have to look elsewhere to get that game time because his probability of getting it here, I think, is 10%, to be honest with you.
It's so true, and it's difficult, isn't it?
He's a good player. I'm not calling him a bad. He's a decent player. You know what I mean?
And even though Liverpool aren't playing well at the moment, we're still an elite team. And to get into this squad is so difficult because it's going to take a complete collapse. Look at United. They've hardly brought any youth players through. Maybe you might say McTominay falls in that category, but then you look at maybe Elanga.
Well, they let Garner go to Nottingham Forest. They've got
Tong.
Yeah, they let him go. But he's the Argentinian. He played. He got into the Argentina squad recently. He came on last night for Manchester United. I think he's the only one. Oh, and they had a left back come on as well for Malacia. Again, that's only recently since Ten Hag has come in. And again, Manchester United are in a different position to Liverpool. They're not fighting for the title. Well, no, that's it, Garnacho.
That's it. Garnacho, sorry.
Yeah.
There we go.
So it's like I look at Man United. The team I would look at in terms of youngsters, probably with the best, is Arsenal, because they've obviously been able to have a Saka, Emile Smith-Rowe, Martinelli, Nketiah. They just let Omar Hutchinson go to Chelsea. You know, they've got enough youngsters in there, but because of the way where they're at as a football club at the moment, where they're not challenging for honours, and they're able to still have these youngsters still learn their trade in the first team. For them, the youngsters have been able to come through. If this was 4 years ago, Elliott, Curtis Jones, Fabio Carvalho, Kwanzaa, Mabea, Frauendorf, Cannonier, all of these guys would be getting way more games. Of course they would, because we'd be in a different stage of our development in the game. As you said, Ash, we're at an elite level at this current moment in time. We're supposed to be challenging for honours. These guys are going to find it difficult to get in.
I completely agree. And Marquet is saying, big up Marquet as well in the comments again. Big up yourself. It was nice to put a voice to the name as well.
Yeah, it was.
It was
Big up
nice to
yourself, bro.
see
Big up
Mark,
yourself, man. You
So
got to jump
big
on
up.
again, man.
I wouldn't mind a couple of youngsters play. Look, we wouldn't mind a couple of players playing this youngsters this weekend. Bidwell says it as well. Never would I. So could they do any worse? Probably not. So why not give them a try? It's also saying Mabea likely behind Trent and the dreaded. And I don't want to dog Milner out because you know what I mean. Like, it's not Milner's fault he's thrown in there every week, but I agree. Like, Milner's probably going to be in there before we see Mabea as well, which it just upsets me. It upsets me a lot. We'll hold that conversation though that we were just about to have about the different types of youngsters at different squads, because I want to talk about that in regards to Liverpool after we've just rounded up the weekend's results. Under 18's results this weekend. Let me pop this up here like that. 3-1 defeat against Spurs.
Hat-trick from Williams.
Spurs not really known for having a great academy, but Liverpool's 18s have impressed me this season. So this doesn't kind of reflect the way that I've been feeling about how they've played. They've had a few players come up and be trialed and trying to find a place within this team. So you're looking at Onanuga, Pinnington. It's a very new team. Osborne wasn't in there last year. Gamia. So many new players. And obviously with Cone Doherty, Doak, Ronell Young, Lafay coming into the setup, it's a completely new under-18 side. Now, for me, they found a way to play. Kumas, I think, has been, aside from Doak, has been electric. He's replaced Cannoneer for the goals that he got last season. Do you think it's just a matter of time of gelling together, bedding in together? Miles is obviously the leader within that setup, was in that team last year. McConnell as well. Those two are going to have to take a more senior role this season and show the rest of them how to play, basically.
Yeah, and I think, again, this is it when it comes to like academy football. But I'm actually looking at, was it Doherty? I don't know how you're going to pronounce it. But yeah, I'm looking at someone like him to actually be the spark to kind of push that under-18s team forward. I think he's the one I'm looking at this season. You have a good season, Liverpool will have a good season. That's just my personal opinion. I think he's such a good player, such a young player as well, that whether or not they'd want to build a team around him is up to the manager and things like that, and the way that they play, it might not work that way. But I feel like he's someone who can kind of carry, the team forward in that kind of sense. And obviously, Ben Doak, even though we know he's more than likely gonna stay closer with the under 21 squad than he would with the under 18 squad, there might be every now and again where he might go back and forth. So again, he's another player who, once you get those two on the wings, that might just be a problem.
Yeah. And Cammy as well. Big up Cammy. Cammy, Scousers Rising admin, runs the page, founder of Scousers Rising. Get over all the academy news is on there. So make sure you go and following Cammy. Provides us with all our updates, all our news at Kloppzone on the academy. Saying that Ben Doak is not scared of anybody. Like, he takes everyone on and beats them all. I don't even want to stay on that result 3-1. Do you know what? Under 18s, do better and we'll talk about you more. That's what I'm going to say. So we will talk about the guy that's lit up the under 18s, Benny Doak. Don't look like a footballer. I don't know, that sounds stupid, but just a nice, humble, hard-working young man. This is what we want to see. I'm sick of all the Sideshow Bob haircuts, and I'm sick of all the jewelry deals, G. Like, I'm just, do your job and play football. You're an academy player, work hard, and then you can play hard. We know Trent's playing hard now because he can barely run, so he's doing something off the pitch. But you've got to earn those stripes. Trent, as much as we don't want to say he's earned those stripes, he's won everything there is to win because he worked hard at this level. At this level, you weren't seeing Trent getting shiny necklaces. You weren't seeing Trent having ridiculous haircuts like he's got now. He's doing all that now. He didn't do it in the academies. This is what we like to see, isn't it? Ben Doak called up as well to Scotland's under-21 side. He's 16 years of age. He's a madness. This
Republic
kid.
of Ireland. Republic of Ireland.
Republic of Ireland. No, it's Scotland, isn't it?
Is it?
He's doing a madness anyway.
But no, either way, with someone like Ben Doak, like I said, when I watched that game against Napoli, like Cammy said, this guy was just picking up the ball, left foot as well. Well, if he's not left footed, bloody hell, he surprised me then because he can clearly use both feet. But left on the right hand side, he was just burning that right their left back all the time. Like it was kind of constant. Like, and I kept thinking to myself, Jesus Christ, this guy, yeah, Republic of Ireland, I thought so.
No, he's Scottish. Ben Doak Scottish. Trent Doherty is Republic of Ireland.
Sorry, I got the two mixed up. When I'm watching him play, it's just the way I said it to you, even in the chat, I think a minute ago. Like he kind of, and I'm not saying he's going to be as good as him. I'm not saying he's.
Oh, here we go, breaking news.
But the way he was playing, it reminded me a lot of Salah, but it even just had a bit more technique with it. Do you get what I'm trying to say? His goal, even again on the right foot, slotted it in through the defender's legs, and I was like, okay. And then the goal that he set up for Liverpool's second goal, again, quick step over onto his right foot, boom, and then we scored. And it was like I was just watching him play, and I could tell that Napoli were very worried about him, very, very worried. So that at first they were trying to, early parts of the game, closing down early. That didn't work because he was just able to skip round them. Then they were kind of dropping off. That didn't work because he was able to still shimmy his way and still, become effective. And him and Mabea on that right-hand side, they worked well together. And that's what I said about Mabea's positioning allowed Ben Doak to be able to do what he needed to do. So it was a good performance.
I wish we could see a bit more of Doak and Mabea playing together because obviously Mabea under 21s, Doak under 18s. This is why I like the youth league because you can mix them both and it's a good combination. But what RJ's saying here, we don't see any academy players getting into the first team. We're all going on about Klopp and dynasties and being the best and intensity, family, community, book deals. We talk about all these different things. We said it the other day. Klopp has brought in 2 academy players in 6 years. Trent and Curtis Jones. And Curtis Jones isn't even a first team regular. He's probably, to be honest, Curtis Jones should probably still be playing in the academy. If it was under 23s, I'd probably want him to be getting under 23 time because he's not getting any game time whatsoever now. You look at Elliott and people might say, oh, Elliott and Carvalho, they're youngsters, but they're not through the academy system. Liverpool said they were building this AXA training centre to inspire a new generation so they can come up and get into the first team and feed into that. Now, I get that it's difficult because Liverpool are a top-class team. But like RJ said, G, Pep does it and gets these players in. Ten Hag started doing it straight away. Arsenal have been doing it. So why is it that Liverpool don't? We don't spend and bring players in. We don't promote from within, from the academy system. We're just stagnant. We just see the same thing year in, year out without any adaptation.
I think I'm going to put this comment up now. That's the reason why. The quality between our, and it's sad to say, but obviously, look, I'm not at Manchester City. Look, Cole Palmer, Phil Foot, like they're not on De Bruyne's level, of course not. Like that's an elite level, but their academy is so good that when you're bringing players through, and remember, as we've just seen there in the graphic where you showed about the formation, the first team don't even play that. So how can we expect anybody from the academy to come up? You've mentioned on numerous occasions about Luke Chambers, Norris, and other players. Yes, they can play so many different positions. Is that good enough for the first team? Because they've not actually really nailed on a position. Yeah, they'll play a certain position maybe more than other positions, but I don't feel like they're nailing on positions. Mabea, is he a right wing back? Is he a right centre back? Frauendorf, was playing on I think it was on the left-hand side, I think.
Roendorf has played everywhere. Right back last season, central midfield at one point,
Up
striker for
front,
the first team,
and
left
this is it.
winger in the last game. Like, it's
And,
madness.
and this is it with Manchester City. They don't really do that. Everyone plays the exact same way. Not the exact same way, but they play as similar as they can to the first team. So it filters through the entire academy. So you don't have to, when you do get up to the first team level, like I said, the skills are transferable. All you're now doing is upping the level that you obviously need to be at to, to play in the Premier League. Whereas here, we don't do that. We've got under 19s playing one formation. Under 18s are going to play another formation. When they get to the first team, it's now completely out the window. We saw it with Curtis Jones, left winger, someone who was tricky, exciting, gets in the box, curls it in. Other than that goal against Everton, I don't think I've ever seen him really do anything like that. Why? Because he's playing left central midfield. How can you expect a player to have the same kind of output that he could potentially have in that first team when you've made him go from a left winger into a left central midfielder? It's just not going to work. So what Klopp and the staff have to start doing is, with the academy team, they need to sit down and there needs to be a better plan in order to allow the players to, when they do get into the first team, they already know how to play. Forget how to your skills and how good you'll get there through training. How do we play in the first team? Okay, we want to play 4-3-3, and we want our 3 central midfielders to do this, and we want our left winger and right winger to do this. Blah 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 blah. Okay, this is the role that you need to learn at the academy level first. Once you've learned that, you can make it. At Man City, they've done that. Unfortunately, here at Liverpool, I just don't feel like there's a real plan when it comes to the academy setup.
There's no plan. I don't think there's a plan. And we've always heard this coming out the whisperings that no, it's just free flowing throughout the teams. We can have under 18s play, and the next week they're playing for the under 21s, and it's just, if they're good enough, they get in. But then we never see that coming into the first team. But I agree with what you're saying, but I disagree in terms of the quality is not good enough. Like Sam Njugunu says here, Tyler Morton could do a better job than Fab when he gets back from loan. Now, yes, at the minute, he could do a better job than Fab. We said in pre-season, Tyler Morton in that 8 looked so good. So then, why has Tyler Morton been let go out on loan? Conor Bradley could definitely be taking Trent's place at right back this season. We seem to let these players go out on loan just as we think, they're going to get a taste of first-team football this season. But then even if they don't, like Curtis Jones, and you think he's going to play, they don't get opportunities. Bajcetic, you're ruining Bajcetic's development right now because he's sat on the bench, game in, game out. Yes, he might be training with the first team. Whoop-de-do. Do you know what I mean? Whoop-de-do. Who cares if he's training with the first team? Give him game. He needs game time. You can't replicate intensity of matches in training. So either play him, bring him on from the bench for 20, 30 minutes, or take him back down into the under-21s so he can actually play football. Because right now, all I'm seeing is a young lad being wasted, a talented lad, because we know he could do a job in that first team. From what I saw in pre-season, G, he looks like he could easily come in certain games and replace Fabinho.
I think that I agree. I do think he's a good player. I think he's talented, and if he's been nurtured properly, then yes, he could definitely do that. I just think with Liverpool, he wouldn't. And that's the problem, purely because of the word that you mentioned, intensity. Academy level do not have it in the slightest, and that's no slight on them. It's just purely because of how intense Jurgen Klopp and Pep Yinders have got this team playing, or had got this team playing. As we can see with the first team now, look at the massive drop off in levels between what we were 2 years ago, for example, as opposed to now, purely from the intensity. Players are still the same. Players are still doing the same things. They haven't really changed that much. No one's really changed their game in the first team. Salah's still doing the same things that Salah was doing, just not doing it as much. Why? Because the intensity levels have obviously inevitably just dropped off. They can't do that academy level. So when they do get up to the first team, and this is why I agree with what you said before, if you're not giving these guys the games, how the hell do you expect them? You're going to have to actually just give them games, let them fail. If they do, which they're going to do, look, we're not stupid. We know that
Yeah.
they're going to have bad games. They're going to have poor form.
How
They're
many
going to
times have we said,
have
G, elite athletes have to fail?
yeah.
You have to fail to grow. There's no one in the history of being a greatest of all time that hasn't failed and then had to overcome that failure and learn from it to become great. But you've got to put them in there to fail in the first place.
And this is it.
Otherwise, it's pointless.
And bro, 100% agree. And until Jurgen Klopp and the rest of them decide that, you know what, and the thing is, I think, and I know this is more talking about the first team, but I think someone mentioned it in the comments. I'll try and find it, that we eat, forget we, because I keep saying we, because fans don't make the decisions. It's the management. I think even for the management's sake, they need to be in a position whereby even if you've tried them and you can see, mate, he's just never going to reach this level. No problem. But the problem that you're having is, as Sam Ning Jr. here says here, is like, Bajicic should be getting Milner's playing time. Did you get what I mean? He should really be getting that. He should be the one who's taking up Milner's position. Listen, look, I know it's not easy, I've never played, but I know it can't be easy to go away to Napoli and play for anybody. I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're top level or academy level. Going away to Napoli is not easy. And we're not taking that lightly. Napoli are a fantastic team. But the reality is, you're saying that a 36, 37-year-old should be ahead of a player who is very talented purely because of what? The experience. Well, we saw what that experience gave us. It gave us a yellow card and a penalty. So maybe if Bajcetic had done that, you wouldn't be so onto him. I expect better from James Milner because he's experienced. I expect him to not be such a rash, silly individual and get these yellow cards. I expect that from Bajcetic. I actually expect Bajcetic to go in there, get a yellow card and potentially concede a penalty. But we can understand because he can learn from those mistakes. James Milner, there's no excuse. So Klopp, you need to look at these things and start thinking to yourself, is it just better I throw some of them, not all of them, you know what I mean? Don't throw the whole bloody under 18s and under 21s in there, but you can throw in the talented ones, Bajcetic, Mabea could potentially. Trent has been absolutely disgraceful this entire season. Throw these guys in. You know what? Give the first team a bit of a rest. They're tired. They're knackered. They're fatigued. Give them the rest, man.
Get them out. RJ makes a good point. I'm going to get to that in a second. When you said then, Bajcetic going at Napoli, and yes, it's hard for anyone in world football to go and maybe play against Napoli in that stadium, like with that atmosphere. But this is what makes a player. Mm-hmm. Bajcetic is a professional footballer. He'll want to play no matter where he's at. If he goes in there and he's out of his depth and he's running around like a headless chicken, our midfield were doing that, by the way. Fabinho was doing that. So this is why I'm saying put him in there, because he might then go, geez, I'm not at that level yet. And then knuckle down and work even harder. It's going to make him or break him. And that's what you've got to do, because if that situation, he goes away and goes, right, I'm working hard now, that's what you want to see. And you look at him and you go, his mentality, he's going to be an elite class player because he knows now he's got to put the work in. If he comes on and absolutely balls out, whoa, winner. If he comes on and then he shades away, hides away, and then comes off the field and he's like, in training, a bit weaker, a bit less, then you go, do you know what? He wasn't ready. He's not ready. Put him down in the 21s, but you'll never know until we put him in that situation. I want to talk about this from RJ. Is our academy the issue? And if so, how can LFC make it on the level with City, Chelsea, etc.? The profile of players, G, that Liverpool get, like you said, play in so many different positions, really good for the team. They're setting up at Liverpool a team for under-21s football. They're recruiting players to go out and win the under-18s Premier League or whatever you want to call it. They're not going out and going, right, I'm getting a star and I'm just playing stars and I'm coaching them, honing their skills. I'm putting them in the position we want them to be when they get in the first team. They're looking at it too much from a under 21s is the elite, is the football team. Playing 3-5-2, yes, it's good for that game, but what's that doing to their development? Because they're not going to play that when they move up. We get a certain player where they fit well into the system, whereas you look at Chelsea, Man City, United, Arsenal, they're getting these techie ballers from the streets, G. They're going to the cages and they're pulling them out. Do you know what I mean, though? They're going getting these players. Have you ever seen anyone like that at Liverpool?
I had this conversation with Ish literally 2 days ago when we spoke about we saw a video in regards to Chelsea youngsters like messing around and stuff, and I said, do you ever see a Liverpool like player, youngster, or anyone in the academy who's like, as he said, the street ballers and things like? Now listen, look, I'm not saying that you should just go out and buy some street ballers, but what Ash just said there, that's all factual. At the end of the day, just like Liverpool in the first team, what they've done is literally transferred that first team to the academy levels. System. They can only play in this system. Yeah. Chelsea, Man City, there is no such thing as that. Yes, obviously, of course, they got a style of play, which is different from a system. They've got a style of play that they want to implement within their team. So whether it be a possession-based team, that could be done in many ways, 4-3-3, 4-5-1, 3-5-2, it doesn't really matter. But the actual emphasis is on possession. For example, I don't fully know, but let's say as an example at Manchester City, Chelsea, they've got a massive conveyor belt of just brilliant players. This summer, they went out and bought what's his name? Chuck from I can't say his full name, but
Chukwuemeka.
I'm gonna call him Chuck. Chucky from Aston Villa. They were looking at a player from Inter Milan. They were looking at they bought Amari Hutchinson from Arsenal. Yeah. They were looking at players in the who were born, I think, in 2003 kind of era. Why? Because they were trying to then say, obviously, I'm guessing in the next 3 to 5 years, those are going to be the players who are obviously getting into that first team. But the conveyor belt of players that Chelsea have had, yes, people can turn around and say, but none of them are in the Chelsea first team squad. Doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. Why? Because they're able to sell Tomori, Abraham. God knows, I'm trying to think. Mark Gay. God, there's so many. Declan Rice was obviously a Chelsea youngster. There's so many more I could easily reel off. But the reality is, we're putting ourselves in a position whereby we're almost just shoeboxing ourselves into this. All right, if you can play this system in this team, we want you in. But that system isn't going to be the same system that you get in the first team. So you still need to be able to transfer whatever it is you've learned in the academy into the first team. And as you said, 2 players, Trent Alexander, like, are you telling me in 8 years that Jurgen Klopp has been here, he has only been able to bring through 2 players? Come on. Embarrassing.
And that's where I'm leading to, is the fact that look at Liverpool's academy, look at the profile of players we've got. Everybody, and I mean everybody, was saying Mujalovski. Mujalovski. Where's Mujalovski, G? What are they doing with him? Because you don't get called the Polish Messi for nothing. And I don't care, right, if he doesn't pass the ball, if he takes too many shots, if he's a bit greedy at times, because he's hella talented. Like, hella talented. So why is he not in the under-19 squad? Is he in? I don't think he's injured. I just think he's not getting selected. Now, maybe his injury record isn't great, but this is a player who we should have been going, right, we're going to focus on you. We're going to get you ready for first-team football because your talent is head and shoulders above anybody else. And that's a fact. Anyone within that academy setup will tell you Mujalovski, his talent is unbelievable. But he's just drifted off. Look at who we've got now. For talent, you've got Ben Doak, probably the most talented now. In terms of a baller, in terms of someone who can do everything, he's nothing in comparison to the likes of a Chucky. I'm going to say Chucky. He's nothing in comparison to those type of players. He's a typical Liverpool baller. someone who's going to be rugged and bounce off challenges and make right decisions. And I get that that's good in some instances. But, bro, I need to see an Elise. I need to see an Eze. I need to see someone who's going to come in and mix it up and create chances and do something out of nothing. We don't have anybody that can come from the academy and do that. And I'm talking age groups. There's no one I look at who can do that. Maybe Harvey Blur, but that's just because of pace.
But this is it, though. Look at the first team. Luis Diaz. What's the difference between Luis Diaz when he first came in and how he is now? Is he the same player? He's not. He's not the same player. And you can tell, because as we saw yesterday against Napoli, why does it seem like when the team are in, this is the first team I'm talking about, why is it when we are in free-for-all and, we're losing and it's just, I don't really care about positions, just do whatever you're doing, we see a better Luis Diaz? Always. This season, we've seen Luis Diaz has been at his absolute best when Liverpool have been absolutely poor. Last season, what we were seeing was the exact same thing when we were obviously still winning games and things like that. But we saw a Diaz who had no real constraints, no real, okay, this is your role, just kind of do your thing. I was seeing Luis Diaz flick the ball over Reece James's head in a final. I don't think I'll see that really this season unless we're losing 4-1.
We'll never see that again.
Why? Because when you get into the first team, what happens? Klopp decides to nullify that.
He circumcises you, bro. That's what he does. Klopp turns everybody Jewish and circumcises them. 100%.
Keeping quiet on that. But it's
what he does. We know he does. And then it becomes, you all know it's like, and then it's everyone's sensitive. Then like, oh, I can't do that. It's like when it's exposed, when that protection gets taken away, it's sensitive. And then it takes time then to settle in and get that ruggedness. That's what Klopp wants. He's took that fancy blanket off and he's making players rugged so they can run, so they can handle a beating. That's what he does. I'm saying it now. He circumcises players. I'm going to post that after. Klopp circumcises.
Don't put my name there. What you again? We see it though. Thiago, Jerry's alluded to this many times. What is the main thing that he has said about Jurgen Klopp? It isn't his football IQ. It isn't his positional awareness on the football pitch. It's the fact that he taught him how to run. Yeah. These are the things that the head coach or the manager, whatever you want to call him, this is what he's teaching the players. This is what he's teaching one of the most technically gifted players in football right now. This is what he's teaching them, how to run. So I can't, it's difficult to then say he'd be able to get in all of these youngsters and Musialowski and say, yeah, you know what, he can come in and do this. He's not going to allow him to do it. Curtis Jones, I go back to it again. The Curtis Jones we see today is not the Curtis Jones I remember seeing and being excited about. It isn't. This Curtis Jones is a poor footballer and won't make it at Liverpool. This Curtis Jones. But the Curtis Jones I saw in the academy under Steven Gerrard was fluent. He had flair. He was taking players on. Harvey Elliott at Fulham, even when he was in the academy, but also when he was in the first team, the exact same thing. What has happened now to Harvey Elliott was at Blackburn and was able to get assists and goals playing on that right-hand side. Yeah. Why? Because of his attributes, his natural attributes that he has. He's come into the first team. You've put him right central midfield. The guy's doing nothing but sideways passing and energy and desire. Yeah, as people will keep telling me, he's got a lot of energy and a lot of desire. You're nullifying these players to play in a system. That is the problem. The team is so system-based that unless the players are at their optimum level, you're never ever really going to thrive in that team. You never, as a flair player, we could never get a Lise, an Eze, a Zaha, a Neymar, Hazard, like just in terms of the type of players I'm talking about. We could never have that at Liverpool. Never. Why? Because they would never fit into this system. They would just get straight away because they would just look out of sorts. You really think you can see any of these guys pressing like no? But what they do good, we can't seem to play to their strengths, to be honest with you. And that will continue to hinder us in terms of the type of players that we get, meaning we're going to have to get used to just seeing your typical runners and guys who can press. That's about it.
Look, if I want to see runners, G, I'm watching the Olympics. I don't need to watch football to see runners in it. I'll go to the marathon. I watch the local triathlon. I don't need runners anymore. I want to see football now. I need to see football. There's a few things I want to just pinpoint from the comments. People talking about Doak could be the third greatest player, but hopefully he's not treated like Muzhalovsky. This is so true. Muzhalovsky got left out. He wasn't injured of the Champions League squad. His future's uncertain, apparently. And then Mark A coming back with Chelsea do have that catchment area of London as a counter, Cobham as an aura. It's like a football palace. Completely true. But Liverpool, literally, Liverpool scouts get down there.
You can do that. Get the scouts down there.
I would say London, G, for this street football, for the type of footballer with flair, it's known for that. But northern clubs aren't. Northern clubs are known for the rugged players. You're talking Yorkshire, Northwest. But one area that is most similar to London in terms of street football, in terms of this kind of baller, is where? Liverpool. Liverpool is the closest replication when you go through the city, when you look in the cages, when you look at football clubs. But what the scouts are doing, they're not going for that, G. They're not going looking at these natural flair players. They're going looking at, all right, who's been in our academy since they were 3 years old? All right, let's go and look at the local club that churn out talent, because that's where we get everything from. It's all kind of this 80s, 90s, noughties. It's just like we follow the same trajectory, same trend, and it's like, please,
I think that's
something different.
I think, and you just hit the nail on the head. Something I've always thought about with Liverpool is just trying to choose my words carefully. I don't want to offend anybody, and I don't mean this in any level of disrespect to anybody from the northern side. But the problem you have with Liverpool specifically, I'll talk about, is that, as you said, Liverpool as a city, as an area, as whatever, as a club, as an institution, as an organization, they're so stuck in their traditional ways that they haven't caught up with society. They haven't caught up with football, the modern day football. They have not caught up with it. So you're going to see your Manchester Cities, your Man Uniteds to a degree, and even they are kind of a bit similar. They're so stuck in that way of thinking in life, in football, in everything, that we're just getting left behind by all of these other teams. Crystal Palace have a better academy, in my opinion, in terms of player individuals than Liverpool. Of course they do. When you look at the Crystal Palace youth team, look how many of their players make it into the first team. Obviously, Crystal Palace are at a complete lower level than Liverpool. So you're going to naturally have a higher percentage of players making it into that first team. But the reality is, I'm not talking about the percentage of players. I'm talking about the type of players that you are getting through to this team. And the problem is with Liverpool, as you said, you're getting the same profile of players that you would have got in the 80s and 90s. That doesn't work. I can tell you now, as someone who hasn't coached, it doesn't work. Just through my eyes, obviously speaking to people who work in the game, they've even told me themselves that Liverpool are so far behind all of these other teams because of these kind of things, catchment areas and things like that. From someone I spoke to who's a scout themselves, he told me that with Liverpool, the problem that you have is they don't even really want to come down to London to try and find these players. We don't actually really have that many scouts, if any. We probably do, but not as much. But Manchester City seem to have a plethora of scouts and seem to have a decent.
Even if you look at everyone else's academy. Sorry, am I blurring a bit? Look at everybody else's academy, and there's a mix of people from all over everywhere. Liverpool's academy is very heavily Liverpool based. And when we do get players in, you look at the likes of Doak, Scotland, Trent Cone-Doherty. I think we got him from, I think he was in Scotland or Ireland. I might be wrong. We're not getting any of these Southern players. When we do, it's someone that they just want to go straight into the first team. Like Sterling, like Harvey Elliott, who was at Fulham. It's all these players that they just want to put straight in there and don't want to develop, don't want to get that techie side and then mix it with the rugged northern side. That would be perfect for Liverpool if they did that. But they just don't do it. Designed by K6, he's saying FSG to blame yet again because they aren't spending on the young team. But they make us believe they are. AXA Training Centre. This was the whole point in it, to get the youngsters alongside the first team so they could breed this new generation of talent. But they've not done that. They're not improving the scouting networks. They're not improving anything in terms of getting the best players from the best academies and bringing them to Liverpool. Just like this, there were United scouts at an academy game in London that he was at.
Mark, next time you're looking to go to academy games, drop me a DM and I might come down with you. To be fair.
So real talk as well. I want to go to some academy games.
Yeah, so give me a shot.
Another thing I wanted to pin up here, G, and I know you've got something starred, and we'll get to that in a second.
Yeah, we'll get to that.
Ali A saying, but you can say the same with Pep, guys. Pep G makes his players play his system, passing system. He doesn't make them express themselves. No. 100% I agree. But what does Pep do? Improve them as a footballer. Yeah. He makes them better technically, mentally, positionally, everything. He makes them better footballers. What does Klopp do? Makes them better runners. And that is the difference. They don't get better in terms of a footballing sense, G. They get better in terms of physical. Look what Trent's done. Trent's put size on now so he can run more. Like
if you again, and this is why guys, you need to make sure you're watching all of our shows, because we touch upon this in quite a few shows. Again, have to hail up JJ because he's really got his eye on the ball and these kind of things. Who has Klopp actually improved football IQ wise since he's been at the football club? I don't think I could really name anybody that he's actually improved their football IQ. What he's been able to do is the system that he obviously wants Liverpool to play. Once he's got the players at their optimum level, so at their peakest of peakers, so your Salahs, your Van Dijks, your Trents and stuff like that, when they're at their peak, they can play in that system. What did I mention to you about players playing for Liverpool and not being able to play for international teams? Why? Because they can only play well at their optimum level in Liverpool's system. Yes, you can call out managers, your Southgates, the Brazil manager and stuff. Yeah, cool. But the reality actually is that those players cannot play for their Brazilian national teams, England national teams, and whoever else. Thiago, I kept saying it. I was so surprised at seeing Thiago on the bench for the Euros. And the reason why he was on the bench was purely because he can't play that level of football. Not because he's not good enough. Of course he is. It's bloody Thiago. Let's give him some respect. But because he's so used to playing in a system, his attributes and skills and all of that now, he can only really do well there at Liverpool. And we've seen it time and time. Roberto Firmino, Fabinho, these guys are never playing. They're never playing for their countries. Why? Because they can only play at their optimum level at Liverpool because of the system that we play at Liverpool. So I do agree with was it Phil? I can't remember who it was who put that comment up about. Bidwell. So big up yourself, Bidwell. I do agree, yes, but as we've said, one, for me, I don't feel like it's a system at Manchester City. I feel like it's a style of play. And on top of that, Pep Guardiola is a manager or coach, whatever you want to call him, who is able to improve players, football IQ. Jurgen Klopp cannot and has never been able to improve a player's football IQ. What he's good at doing is if he gets a system, like I keep saying, and the players are playing at the optimum level, boom, he is one of the best. I can definitely say he is one of the best when he can get the players to do that. But if you're talking about improving a player, Thiago's come out and said it. So before anybody kills me and says, "Oh, don't talk about Klopp like this," and etc., etc. Oh, do you know what I mean? It's like before anybody comes out and says that, go back and look at the tapes. Go back and look at what Thiago said. It's all there for you to see. He helped me to run. He didn't say he helped me to play football, my positional awareness, this, that, and the third. It was nothing to do with that. So again, these are the things you have to look at. And this is why I always maybe am a bit more harsher with people like Pep Yinders, Kravitz, and Jurgen Klopp, because I thought you guys being the manager and the coaching staff, you were there to improve players. At the moment, I'm being honest, I do not feel you've improved any of the players at all. I just think they've all just hit a peak. And because they're at their peak in this system, it works. Elsewhere, wouldn't even work at all. Wouldn't even work at all.
I think what we've done, we're not saying the players haven't improved. Before I do this, just some breaking news. Premier League games have been cancelled this weekend. Obviously, due to the sad news that the Queen has sadly passed away. So what I will say to everyone, you might be frustrated. You might want the Premier League to carry on. But again, don't take to social media and start slandering. Like, have a bit of respect. It's cancelled. Let's just roll with it. It might be back on next weekend. It is what it is. The decision's been made. So let's mourn the loss of our Queen, innit, for a little bit. What I want to say is, because Remy's put this up, G, right? Remy's back. Van Dijk is one example of a player Klopp improved. Illusion that Klopp does not improve players is nonsense. Now, we still want to keep this academy base because this is an academy show. But what G's saying, and I don't want to put words in G's mouth, but I think I know where he's coming from. Players, we've got the best out of players in a sense of, as a team, they've peaked. Yeah. Players have improved at Liverpool, but not on a football IQ level, not on a technical level.
Yeah,
they've just got the best out of them because they've motivated them. Physically, they've developed. They might have got quicker. Yes, you still have to be technical to be an elite team and win the Champions League. We know that. But these players haven't shown anything different that we didn't see when they came into the club. If anything, we mute that talent. We mute their footballing IQ so they can fit within the system. The system, Thiago, perfect example. Salah's another example. Salah's changed his game completely. Luis Diaz, Curtis Jones, Naby Keita, the list goes on.
Guys, the list goes on. Again, sorry to even cut you there, but Remy, again, this thing that you have with the glass half full, I respect it a lot because I understand where you're coming from as I'm assuming as a Liverpool fan. What you're not getting is, and I'm just see someone saying Robertson improved.
No.
Again, what you guys are not understanding about this whole football IQ thing is that it's an all-round thing, and there are certain attributes within that. What these players have improved upon are things like, as Ash said, running stats are probably
perfectly put by Mark A, by the way. Perfectly put.
Yes, thank you. We focus on maximizing their metrics instead of their actual talent. So I'll use Curtis Jones in this example. Curtis Jones has not improved as a football player in Jurgen Klopp's first team. What he probably has improved upon is he can probably run more. He's probably stronger. He can probably defend a bit better than he could in the academy. 100%. But if we're talking his actual ability, which was none of those things, he has not improved upon those. Pep Guardiola would have improved upon the latter three. Might not have improved so much on the former, but he would have improved on the latter three, which would have then allowed for him to then be conducive in that team and in that system, which then allows them to do what they want to do. Van Dijk, again, if anybody, and I can semi-tell that, Remy, you probably haven't watched Van Dijk for a long time, is that Van Dijk has more or less played the exact same that he did at Celtic, Southampton, and now at Liverpool. The difference is the system that we play has allowed for him to look. Now, I'm not saying he isn't, by the way, before anyone kills me. I'm not saying he isn't a world-class defender, because he still is regardless. But the system has allowed for him to do things in a completely different way. He hasn't gotten better at tackling. He hasn't gotten better. This is for this is football IQ for a defender. I'm not saying he hasn't got any better at tackling. He hasn't gotten any better at one-on-ones. He's exactly the same as he was. The only difference is we don't really even see it we didn't really see it that much because of the way that we play. So you didn't even notice that Van Dijk isn't really doing many one-on-ones, or Van Dijk isn't really doing many tackles or things like that. All of the things he actually is good at, or all the things that he was previously good at, he hasn't really improved upon them. He's just been able to be conducive in the system that we've got here at Liverpool, which I've always stated the system has worked. It doesn't work anymore. The way we play doesn't work anymore. It physically, and you can check for yourself, Remy, because I know you like your numbers and things like that. It actually doesn't work anymore. It physically doesn't work. So for you to then say he's improved players, and someone mentioned, I can't remember who it was, mentioned Robertson just a minute ago. Robertson hasn't changed the way that he's played football in any way, shape, or form. Robertson has been doing the same thing that he has been doing at Hull City and wherever he was prior to that, doing the same thing. The difference now is he's improved on, would I say, he can run more. He's got a lot more energy.
What we're saying as well, Klopp has put them in a position, taught them tactically, maybe positionally, how he wants them to be within his team. They fit in perfectly. It's not an improvement of them. It's an improvement of how the team should set up. That's what Klopp bases everything on, how the team should set up. He doesn't want flair players. He doesn't want anything like this. Van Dijk at Southampton, by the way, was a world-class player in an average team.
And Van Dijk at Southampton is playing like the Van Dijk that we're seeing today, this season. It's the same player. You know what the difference between the intervening years is? Is that Liverpool was so good, you never ever saw anybody trouble Van Dijk. You never ever saw him being in positions where he actually had to defend. It was so rare that you saw these things that it was something that just became, as everyone loves to make fun of, an aura about him that he didn't really need to
exactly
even do.
What I was going to say.
If Liverpool were as bad as Southampton were, you would see the exact same Van Dijk. It wouldn't be any different. You'd see the same player. The only difference is you can't see the same player because he's never ever been got at ever in game. It's only this season that we're actually seeing the attackers actually go to him and say, you know what, I can come up against Van Dijk now, etc., etc. So again, this is what I'm saying. This is why people need to start getting their emotions out of Liverpool and start thinking a bit more logically. Is that you're thinking of it because we were so good. You feel that we were so good that there was no deficiencies within the squad. There's always deficiencies. Pep Guardiola has deficiencies within his squad as well. There are a lot of deficiencies within Pep Guardiola's squad. Difference is the players are so good technically that you barely ever see them. But when you do see them, they're very glaring. They're very glaring. And that is the difference.
And the thing is, I've only just kind of let this sink in and click now, G. It's not just Van Dijk that had an aura. Liverpool had an aura.
Yeah, Liverpool had an aura.
Salah had an aura.
Mm-hmm.
All these players, our club, we had an aura. That's why we were doing so well, because teams used to come and be worried straight away.
Mm-hmm.
They used to think, how do we do this game? They used to come thinking, we're not going to have possession. We're probably going to concede. So how do we win the game?
Mm-hmm.
But now, left backs are turning up and going, I've got the better of Salah. They're looking at left backs like Robinson from Fulham and thinking, this guy did Salah up in match day 1. He's not a better left back than me. So I'm going to go in there. I'm going to have him. Dan Burn had him. Like, all these players have Salah now because Salah's aura's gone. They're confident when they come into the game. Teams are confident when they come and play Liverpool. That bubble's burst. And that bubble is a massive part of what Klopp brought. Klopp created an aura around Liverpool, which made us seem invincible.
Yeah.
But now you're seeing Zaha, Mitrovic, all these players taking Van Dijk on, thinking, you know,
some of these average, like not all of them, because some of them are actually decent players like Zaha's and stuff like that. But some of these are some average players, and they're making Van Dijk look like any defender. like he's just a nobody. You know, and I'm looking at him thinking, mate, like bloody hell, like I know there's going to be a bit of a drop off, but Jesus Christ, like the drop off is now becoming a bit too noticeable,
Yeah.
whereas before it wasn't as noticeable. And again, we go back to, because it's an academy show, we go back to players like Curtis Jones, and these are the players that I'm focusing on, is because again, maybe certain people in the chat haven't watched these players in academy, but I've actually watched, you know, sat down and watched these players for a long time in the academy, and I know Ash has done so as well. When you see what Curtis Jones used to be able to do in comparison to what he's doing now, you can just tell straight away, one, he's regressed as a footballer, and two, he is nowhere near, not even close to being the same player. Why? Because his skill set was
He's a
nullified.
completely different player. This is what I don't want to. It sounds like we're on a Klopp witch hunt. We're not on a Klopp witch hunt. We are very appreciative of what Klopp has done, but this is the time now. We need to ask questions. It's not good enough. Like any other club, these last 6 games, 7 games, they're getting fired. It's that simple. It's not good enough. So we need to look at him and we need to say, why is it not good enough? One reason is he's taking the character, the charisma out of players. Klopp, who everybody looks at as this charismatic person who wants people to thrive and be the best version of themselves. No, he wants them to be the best version for the team, not the best version of themselves. He doesn't change his way of thinking to suit the players. He changes the players' way of thinking to suit his system.
Exactly.
And that's the difference with Jurgen Klopp. And we're seeing that now when questions need to be asked. It's not a personal vendetta. It's not emotional. It's purely based on the facts of what we've seen. Curtis Jones is a shadow of a man. Curtis Jones is like somebody who's been out for a walk in the woods. He had his backpack on. He was nice and he was built up. He was ready to go rock climbing, abseiling, chop down trees, swing from vine to vine. But then he fell down this trap. And when he fell down this trap, he didn't get food for like a few weeks. And then someone went down this hole and they found him. And Curtis Jones he's there like this in the corner. He's dithering. He's looking a bit frail. He's lost his character, his personality. He doesn't want to climb trees anymore. He doesn't want to go backpacking up mountains. He doesn't want to go abseiling. The adventurous side is gone. Now he's just in survival mode. And he feels like Liverpool is home and that's the only place that he's familiar with and can stay. So he's so loyal to Liverpool, he won't even go elsewhere to try and be adventurous again.
The problem,
it upsets me.
The problem, what do you call it? The problem you're going to always have is, as Ash said, regardless of anything, Klopp will never change his way of thinking. So the players obviously have to fit into that way of thinking. We keep talking about Pep Guardiola, so we'll use Pep Guardiola again. If you've watched Manchester City, you'll know that from when Pep Guardiola came in until today, he has not played the exact same way. He's had about 3 different changes to the way that the team has played within that time.
System,
please just go check it out. Personnel, whatever. Everything. Just go and check it out yourselves, guys. Go back and watch Premier League years or something like that. You'll be able to see it for yourselves. And in fact, don't even do that. Just go and watch the documentaries and things like that. And you'll see that the Pep Guardiola who came into Manchester City is not playing the same way as the Pep Guardiola of today. The Klopp who came into Liverpool is still playing the same way as the Klopp we're seeing today. That will always be the problem because
it's still Mainz Klopp. This is still Mainz Klopp.
The reality is that system, again, it worked when players are at their optimum level, when they're at their peak level. If they're not at their peak level, as we're seeing now, as we have seen since we won the Premier League, it starts to drop off. And it drops off ever so slowly. It's not going to be a massive drop off at first. But then you're starting to see now that even when we've got Carvalho, Harvey Elliott in the starting lineup, Liverpool played the exact same way. There was no change in system. There was no change in style. It was the exact same football that you see. So again, this is what I'm talking about in terms of the coaching of the staff, is that if you do not change, or if you're a staff, if you're staff members who can't actually improve players and you're actually just there to, get players to be able to work in your system, fair enough. But guess what? you're never going to see players of any real technical ability within this squad, because the reality is they wouldn't be able to fit in here, and they're not going to get any better being here. Like I keep saying, Thiago again, and he is such like, he's the biggest one purely because of how high level he actually is. But when you look at someone like a Thiago and you think to yourself, Thiago of Bayern Munich, I'm not even going to say Barcelona because that was a whole different type of football that they were playing anyway, and no one can play that kind of football. But the Thiago at Barcelona is such a shadow of the player that I'm seeing today. This Thiago is, when he first came in, you saw it. You actually saw it. It's actually funny that people don't really understand. You actually saw what was one of the main things about Thiago when he first came into this squad. He kept getting yellow cards. Why?
Yeah.
Because of the way that we play, because of the way that we press, he couldn't do that. So what happened? He kept getting yellow cards. He kept getting himself into challenges that he didn't need to. He's now eventually learned how to do that. He hasn't improved anything else, though. Nothing else is positional. Everything is still the exact same as it was when he was at Bayern Munich. Hasn't improved. Hence the reason why we could never sign a 37-year-old, 36-year-old Modric. Jesus Christ, he would die in this team. He would actually die. He would actually.
Do you know why Thiago's probably so successful? Because he's been willing to change, but he's not compromised who he is. He loves football. Like, Thiago's one of those guys that football is just in his blood. Do you know what I mean? Like, he's just footballing heritage.
But, sorry to even cut you, but I know I keep cutting. But look, you're playing the same system does not make it ineffective. Your arguments are baseless. Guardiola's system is the same despite variations in it. How does that make sense? So it's the same, but it has. How does that make sense? I'm confused here. I'm confused here now. But again, like I said, we're obviously, when we're talking about that, the academy and stuff like that, we need to look at these kind of things, because these are the things that these academy players are inevitably trying to get into. Or the team is what the academy players are obviously trying to get into. If we are looking at Musialowski, for example, a Ben Doak, a Froendorf, nobody in this chat at all, maybe Cammy, and he'll be cheating if he did. Other than Cammy, no one in this chat could tell me what position that Froendorf plays. Nobody could. You couldn't tell me. I know for a fact no one in this chat could tell me. Why? Because he doesn't have a set position. He doesn't have one position that he plays. He has about
not just
four
him,
or
is
five.
it, G? It's not just
It's not
him.
just him. It's not just him.
Frauendorf, it's Norris, it's Bean, it's Voltman, it's Chambers, it's
a massive
Bobby
conveyor
Clark.
belt.
So many players. It's a free-for-all. Liverpool's academy right now, as much as I don't want to admit it, as much as I like, and I really do like some individual players.
Yeah, of course.
As much as I do, it's a free-for-all.
Yeah.
It's just 1 week play a 3-5-2, next week play a 4-1-2-1-2, next week play a 4-4-2, next week, hell, let's play 1 at the back and 8 up front. There's no kind of structure from top or bottom to top. We talk about from top to bottom in terms of ownership and management and FSG. In this instance, from the academy side of things, there's no structure from the bottom to the top.
Mm-hmm.
And we see that year in, year out. And this is why when people are thrown into the first team, they're like a fish out of water. They can't hack it unless they're naturally very talented players, a la Tyler Morton, a la Bacetic, Cade Gordon, who has a bit of expression about him. Everybody else who's just been churning out this mechanical, methodical style of play, they get found out when they come into the big leagues because the talent's not there and they've not been molded to suit the style of play the first team wants to play. But, G, will things change? Not until decisions are made. And we will not be the ones that start calling for any decisions. We'll wait and see, and we will judge our decisions based off how the team perform. But all matches, as we've said, breaking news, all matches been cancelled this weekend, including academy matches. Liverpool FC under-18s, we're going facing Newcastle away tomorrow at 11 a.m. That's been cancelled. Under-21s, Chelsea Football Club away tomorrow. That's been cancelled.
Does it tell us how long, or is it just this weekend?
It's not said yet. As of now, this weekend's fixtures have been cancelled, and that's as far as it goes. Klopp's press conference been cancelled also today due to us not playing tomorrow. So we'll keep you informed on more We're going to go away, have a look at the news. I'm going to come back in half an hour's time and give a little bit of a quick news roundup, just so you know what is going on at Liverpool Football Club. And G, I'm feeling like we might be coming back this afternoon at some point to give you a show on Liverpool men's team. So stay tuned, because we're going to be bringing all that and more. But G, it's been a pleasure again. I've enjoyed this chat on Academy Radar, by the way. I've enjoyed breaking this down a little bit. It's been interesting, but most of all, the followers have been amazing as well. So big up the followers. Hit that like button, hit subscribe, so we can bring you more content like this, even more day to day. We want to do it for you. So please hit like and subscribe. But G, until next time, have a great day. Have a great weekend. You'll never walk alone. Peace!